Discover the incredible journey of a woman with no name or home, transformed by unexpected love. Mary wrapped her fingers tightly around the frayed edges of her medical textbook, the damp pages a stark reminder of the life that had slipped through her fingers like sand. A nurse for nearly a decade, she had dedicated herself to caring for others in this small Midwestern town. Yet here she sat homeless, invisible, and seen by no one. The familiar streets she once traversed as a beacon of hope felt foreign now. The asphalt beneath her worn shoes a relentless reminder of her failures. She watched as laughter spilled from coffee shops. Patrons huddled together over steaming mugs, sharing warmth and stories she once knew well but could only dream of now. Each day was a battle. She scavenged for scraps of food in dumpsters, wincing as she felt the cold resonate not just in her bones, but deep in her heart. Could she really face another day like this? A hollow echo within whispered doubts. Had she miscalculated her worth? As she fumbled through her aspirations, the image of her old self hanging up her white coat hovered just out of reach. The dream of returning to academia burned bright. But what was a dream worth when she couldn't even afford to sleep under a roof? Suddenly, a voice broke her reverie. It was Jack, the town librarian, with gentle eyes and a kind heart. He had seen her countless times, always so engrossed in tomes of knowledge. But today, he paused to ask if she needed anything. Fueled by a mix of desperation and shame, Mary felt torn. Should she lay bare her struggles, exposing the jagged edges of her existence? Or hide beneath her fortress of silence, holding tightly to the dreams that felt farther away than ever? "It's okay," she whispered, hoping he wouldn't pry deeper. But as they talked, the warmth of shared coffee grew from a mere beverage to an ember igniting something within her: compassion, connection, hope. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jack's understanding smile reinforced her desire to pull herself from darkness. As days turned into weeks, he became her mentor, guiding her back to life, back to dreams of teaching, of shaping minds in classrooms, not just tending to wounds. But with every encouraging word came the clashing weight of her current reality. She could barely afford food, let alone school applications. The gnawing doubt twisted in her gut, taunting her. Should she risk everything and accept a quick fix, the sordid temptation that could lead to abandoning her dreams? The moment arrived when she could present her aspirations to the university. Raw nerves braided with excitement coursed through her as she prepared. But as she stood in front of the crowd, the strangling grip of her past tightened around her. The memories began to unfold, secrets about her family, wounds hidden far too long. Would they judge her, or would they understand the desperate measures she considered? The applause was deafening, but internally, she felt an abyss yawning beneath her, a clarion call of her shadowed past lingering in the air. Would she rise, or would she fall back, spiraling into despair, as whispers of the impending darkness wrapped around her dreams and aspirations? Caught in the web of urgency and self-doubt, Mary was face to face with the greatest question of her life. Would she transform into the woman she aspired to be, or would the past rob her of that chance? The uncertainty bore down upon her as hope flickered, leaving her breathless on the brink of something monumental. Mary's heart raced as she stepped off the dimly lit stage, the applause still echoing in her ears. The warmth of the audience's approval did little to diminish the oppressive weight of self-doubt. She had bared her ambitions, yet vulnerability was met with the bitter taste of inadequacy. Each clattering applause held an undercurrent of uncertainty, reminding her of the stark contrast between her past and present. In the days that followed, she oscillated between determination and despair. Her daily routine devolved into survival mode, hunting for food scraps, avoiding the cold, and rehearsing speeches for a future that felt increasingly distant. Jack, ever patient and encouraging, had guided her through preliminary applications and interview strategies, but each time Mary put pen to paper, her vision blurred with the fragility of her situation. What if they see me for who I really am? She confided to Jack one afternoon, staring into her coffee cup as if the grounds would reveal some hidden truth. What if they look past the facade and read the chapters of my life I can't erase? His response was grounded in sincerity. They'll see your strength, your resolve. You're not defined by your past, Mary. You're redefining who you are, and that's what matters. His words, though intended to uplift, echoed deep insecurities. Could she really transcend the whispers of her past? Each night, Mary revisited her medical textbooks, not just to relearn old information, but to anchor herself to an identity she felt slipping away. She imagined standing before students, dissecting complex cases, instilling passion for knowledge. The dream pulled her forward, yet the question gnawed at her: did she possess the courage to pursue greatness amidst daunting odds? One drizzly afternoon, as she leafed through old pages in the library, Jack approached, his expression serious. "There's an opportunity. One think you should consider a volunteer position at the clinic downtown. They need someone with your experience." His words struck her like a bolt of lightning. Volunteering could offer a lifeline, an opportunity to step back into her world of healthcare while also building her resume. But shadows flickered in her mind, conjuring thoughts of inadequacy. "Jack, what if I can't do it? What if I'm still lost?" "You won't know unless you try. It's time to confront that fear, embrace it as part of your journey," he urged, the kind fire of his hope igniting her resolve. Taking a deep breath, she formulated a plan. She would apply for the volunteer position, reclaiming her place in the world she once dominated. Perhaps this was the turning point. She craved, an avenue to rebuild not just her career, but her sense of worth. With determination blossoming, she crafted her application meticulously, showcasing her experience and making her intentions clear. Days later, after a tense wait, an email arrived inviting her for an interview. A tidal wave of excitement and anxiety crashed over her. She felt fragmented, yet beneath that trepidation, a new resolve stirred. Each step felt monumental, every action an assertion of her capability. The night before the interview, she replayed her journey in her mind. Each struggle honed her resilience, and each setback fortified her determination. With renewed clarity, she envisioned herself at the interview, conveying stories of hope, knowledge, and a passion for healing. As she drifted off to sleep, her dreams painted vivid scenarios. But within those swirling images echoed a singular notion. The past would not dictate her future. It was time to face the remnants of her history. Morning light crept through the window, illuminating newfound purpose. She stood before the bathroom mirror, steeling herself for the day ahead, aware that she was not merely stepping into an interview. She was stepping into the next chapter of her life. With every fiber of her being, she strode towards the clinic, determined to confront the fears that had tethered her for too long. Would she claim this opportunity or step back into the shadows? Mary arrived at the clinic, her heart pounding a steady rhythm of anticipation and doubt. The facade of confidence she tried to wear felt precarious as she approached the front desk. A young woman with bright red hair greeted her with a warm smile, instantly setting a tone that eased some of her anxious energy. "Hi there. You must be Mary. They're expecting you. Just head to room 3 down the hall," she said, gesturing with a nod that urged Mary onward. Taking a deep breath, Mary walked down the hallway, each step echoing in her mind as the drumming of her heartbeat intensified. The familiar sterile smell of antiseptic clung to the air, igniting memories of her past life that had once filled her with purpose. She stopped briefly, staring at the framed photos of smiling faces on the walls, doctors and staff with patience. Hope existed here, vibrant and alive. Inside room 3, an older woman awaited her, seated behind a large desk cluttered with papers and medical journals. Dr. Linda Wright, the clinic's director, looked up from a stack of files and offered a knowing smile. "Mary, it's lovely to meet you. I've heard great things." Her tone radiated warmth, and for the first time since Jack's suggestion, Mary felt a flicker of belonging. "Thank you for this opportunity," Mary replied, her voice steady despite the chaos swirling in her mind. Sitting, she noticed the tremor in her hands, determinedly stilling them on her lap. "Before we begin, I want you to know that we value real experience more than credentials here. Can you share what has led you back to healthcare?" Dr. Wright's eyes were keen, searching for sincerity, perhaps even vulnerability. Taking a breath that felt thick in her chest, Mary shared her journey, not just her successes, but her struggles, her fall from grace, and the fierce will to rebuild her identity. I believe in the power of healing, not just physical, but emotional. Each word was a piece of her reclaimed strength. Dr. Wright nodded with appreciation. It's courageous to step back after what you've faced. We all have battles our past doesn't define our future unless we allow it. As the interview progressed, the weight of Mary's doubts began to reshape. For every question about her skills, she unearthed hidden capabilities, regaining pieces of herself she thought lost. The adrenaline of struggle morphed to empowerment with each answer she provided. Yet, a voice whispered, cautioning her of potential rejection lurking near the corners of hope. What if they deemed her unworthy? The thought momentarily darkened her spirit. Dr. Wright leaned in, breaking the thread of her concerned reverie. Mary, we're not looking for someone perfect. We appreciate passion, resilience, and a willingness to learn. What do you think you could contribute to our team? For the first time, Mary felt excitement bubbling within, innovation mingling with a yearning to make a difference. I can help initiate educational workshops. Use my street experience with health literacy to engage the community. I want to empower patients with knowledge. The light in Dr. Wright's eyes danced with interest. I love that idea. It's unique, and it reflects what we strive for here. A surge of warmth spread through Mary. Validation felt like sunlight after a long winter. They continued discussing her potential contributions and visions for the clinic, and each passing moment rooted her into a motivated commitment. As Mary left the interview, buoyed by the dialogue they shared, a question lingered. How would she channel this newfound drive without falling prey to her fears again? The next few days were filled with anticipation. She spent time developing her proposal for the workshops, channeling her passion and innate abilities. Yet self-doubt crept in like a chilling fog. Would the staff respond well? Would they see her as a competent member of their community, or just a woman grappling with fragments of her past? Balancing her excitement alongside paralyzing fear created a dance of urgency in her thoughts. She needed to believe in herself as fiercely as she had described to Dr. Wright. Would her sketch of workshops flourish, or would she find herself once more standing on the precipice of failure? The moment of truth loomed at the staff meeting where she would unveil her proposal. Would she emerge empowered or retreat, hidden behind shadows of despair? With fervent determination, she steadied her resolve. It was time to confront this new challenge. The day arrived, bright and foreboding all at once. Mary arrived early, settling into a side chair outside the conference room to gather her thoughts. A dry mouth and racing thoughts filled her with an energy that felt both exhilarating and paralyzing. As she clutched her folder filled with notes, fluctuations of hope and anxiety raced through her. The discussion going on inside was muffled, but she could feel the undercurrents of camaraderie among the staff she barely knew. Each sound laughter, agreeing voices felt like a reminder of all she was stepping into, and it caused her stomach to churn. Could she really fit into this environment? Was the excitement genuine or a fleeting moment of hyperreality? She leaned back and closed her eyes, allowing the moment's warmth to surround her like a comforting blanket, if just for a moment. Breathing deeply, she recounted her journey, threading together her aspirations and fears. The street experience she aimed to share wasn't simply about returning to healthcare. It was also about resurrecting her own identity. But the buzz of the room immediately snapped her back to the surface, and a stab of self-doubt pierced her resolve. What if her ideas didn't resonate? Even as she had voiced her ambitions to Dr. Wright, now with potential colleagues, it felt like a leap into unknown waters without the reassurance of solid ground. Was she courageous or reckless? The door opened, and Dr. Wright stepped out with a bright smile. Mary, it's time. You ready? Mary's heart raced. I think so. Let us do this, Dr. Wright encouraged, gently nudging her forward as they entered. Mary felt the room's weight, the gaze of 8 sets of eyes on her, each a possibility and a challenge. With a boldness she hardly recognized, she stood confidently before the whiteboard at the front of the room, pinning her hopes to the colorful markers that lay waiting. Hello, everyone, she began, her voice steadying with each word. I'm thrilled to present my idea for health literacy workshops aimed at empowering our patients through knowledge. She launched into her proposal, explaining the importance of accessible education and discussing her insights from her experiences. With every statistic she shared, Mary saw heads nodding, and her confidence grew. Her points were clear, and her message was punctuated with passion. This was her calling. Yet, midway through, she noticed a pair of skeptical eyes among the audience. The woman, short and sharp, leaned back in her chair, arms crossed. The tension from that single gaze sent ripples of uncertainty through her, but she pressed on, determined to not allow doubt to derail her. By engaging patients in this way, we not only improve their understanding, but also enhance their overall health outcomes. Mary concluded, her heart pounding loudly in her chest. Irina, the skeptical woman, raised an eyebrow and finally spoke, her voice cutting through the air. That all sounds good, but how do you plan to ensure participation? People don't just show up because they need to. How will you engage them? A collective silence enveloped the room. Mary felt her heart drop, the weight of judgment palpable. This was the moment of truth. She could retreat into the shadows, but that was no longer an option. She took a breath, confidence igniting her spirit. Great question, she replied, her voice regained power. I plan to collaborate with local organizations, community centers, schools, and even bars to leverage existing social networks. This way, we draw them in through trusted channels. By building partnerships, we make health education a community-driven initiative. What better way to connect with patients than by being where they already are? Satisfaction brushed against her newfound assertiveness. The woman nodded slightly, seeming intrigued. Interesting approach, Irina remarked, the tension in her posture loosening. As the meeting continued, Mary felt lighter. Maybe she was deserving of this chance, no longer shackled by fear. But after the meeting, as she left the conference room, the lingering thought echoed in her mind. Reality crept back, and had she really made a difference? Was it enough to challenge the remaining barriers she felt within? Dr. Wright approached her, a smile brimming with pride. Your presentation was excellent, Mary. I see great potential in your proposal. Thank you, but I still feel there are hurdles. I mean, what if my ideas aren't what they need? Everyone brings something unique, and you've ignited interest today, Dr. Wright reassured. It's only the beginning. Challenges will always exist. It's how you face them that defines your journey. That realization struck Mary. Every step of this path would not just be about reclaiming her identity, but about fortifying her determination. Moments later, facing herself in the mirror at home, she heard a knock at the door. A shadow loomed outside. Was today about to unfold new dimensions she didn't expect? Unveiling the door, she prepared to confront whatever lay beyond, unsure yet intrigued about the potential it held. Who or what awaited her there, ready to test the very essence of her transformation? The door opened, and standing there was a tall figure she recognized instantly, her former classmate, Julia. Once buoyant and ambitious, Julia bore an air of uncertainty now. Their paths had diverged after graduation, but the years apart hadn't dulled the recognition of shared history. Hey, Mary, Julia said, voice almost a whisper. Can we talk? Mary hesitated, sensing an urgency behind her words. Sure, come in. As Julia stepped inside, her gaze scanned the modest living space, a jumble of half-unpacked boxes and remnants of Mary's recent attempts to settle into this new life. I saw your presentation today, Julia began, apprehensive confidence flickering in her eyes. It was really impressive. I know how hard it's been for you to get back in the game. Thanks, Mary replied, her curiosity piqued. But what brings you here? You seem troubled. Julia looked down, biting her lip before continuing. I'm in a tough spot. I lost my job last month, and I've been considering some ideas, but I just feel stuck, she admitted, anxiety creeping into her tone. Sympathy welled up in Mary. This was a conversation she could understand all too well. What ideas? As Julia explained her plans for a new health initiative, Mary felt a sense of connection spark between them. That familiar drive, the desire to help others, was lighting the room. Yet it also ignited something deeper within Mary, a competitive edge she hadn't acknowledged for years. I think it would be great, Mary said, her mind racing. But why do you feel stuck? I don't know, I guess I just keep questioning whether I'm good enough to lead something like this. You know how it is, we all have our doubts. Mary frowned, realizing that they were both navigating the same treacherous waters of self-doubt and ambition, yet they took different paths to confront it. Look, I felt that too, Mary confided, a spark of camaraderie igniting. But we can't let doubt define us. This moment of clarity surged through her, a recognition of the power in shared vulnerabilities. Together, they could confront their fears, strategize paths forward, and possibly create something meaningful out of their struggles. I have my workshop proposal, and you're looking to launch something new. Why don't we collaborate? We could combine our ideas, create something that could really resonate, Mary suggested, the notion dawning on her like the sun rising after a stormy night. Julia's eyes lit up, the mixture of trepidation and excitement palpable on her face. Really? You want to partner with me? Of course. We both want to help people. Let us use our skills to elevate our visions. Mary felt the swell of a newfound determination. It wasn't just about her. It was about harnessing collective strength. But alongside this rush of ambition, a gnawing fear lingered. What if the scrutiny she faced in the conference room returned, amplified by the stakes of collaboration? Was she strong enough to handle the burden of both her ideas and Julia's? As they launched into brainstorming, exhilaration and doubt collided in Mary's mind, setting the stage for a partnership that would test her limits and unveil her hidden potential. Boundaries were about to blur, and competition was only a heartbeat away. With plans commencing, she couldn't shake the feeling that this partnership might either embolden her or expose her insecurities in ways she might not be ready to face. What would happen when the excitement gave way to real challenges in this combined endeavor? And looming in the near distance was Irina the skeptic from the meeting, her opinion still hanging like heavy fog over Mary's confidence. The imminent confrontation with her judgments waited to unfold, ready to challenge Mary's resolve. Would she fold under the pressure, or rise stronger in this newfound alliance? As their conversation flowed into the night, Mary felt the tension of uncharted territories wrapping around her like a cloak, both thrilling and daunting. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but she wasn't about to retreat. The time was drawing near to confront the doubts, the competition, and the very essence of her bravery. But as possibilities swirled around them, a nagging uncertainty echoed in the back of her mind. What if this venture led not to growth, but instead unearthed insecurities that would shatter the confidence she fought so hard to build? Mary found herself sprawled on the worn couch, her heart racing with the thrill of collaboration and the weight of uncertainty. Thoughts raced through her mind, each one demanding attention like a child vying for their parent's gaze. Julia was excited, fired up by the potential of their partnership, but Mary felt a dissonance within herself, a stark contrast between her enthusiasm and the creeping shadows of doubt that could eclipse any newfound ambition. What if we're just shiny distractions in a storm? She thought, grappling with the fear that their collaboration would lead nowhere but a deeper pit of insecurity. However, a stubborn flicker of resolve ignited within her. Julia's passion was contagious, and perhaps hers could be rediscovered as well. Over the next few days, they dove into planning sessions that consumed every waking hour. Ideas flowed wildly. What began as a single workshop proposal evolved into a conceptual map of initiatives that could potentially transform their communities. They explored innovative outreach strategies that would engage others, igniting a sense of purpose in the workforce, a flicker of hope for those finding their own way back after setbacks. Yet, Mary struggled internally, feeling the burden of responsibility grow heavier. Each brainstorming session with Julia reminded her of the spotlight that had unnerved her during the presentation. What if their ideas didn't resonate? How would she cope if this endeavor crashed and burned, illuminating all the insecurities she barely managed to camouflage? She knew that it was a trap of self-doubt, one she disappeared into more often than she would like to admit. Yet, as she watched Julia blossom in their discussions, gaining confidence, articulating ideas with clarity, Mary realized this was also an opportunity for her to shed the weight of her fears. Uncertainty filled the air, but their creative synergy kindled something within her that she hadn't felt in a long time. These discoveries ignited her passion, challenging her to confront the accusations of inadequacy swirling in her mind. One evening, while brainstorming in a local cafe, Mary decided to put her fears to paper. "We need a cohesive vision," she announced, her voice steadier than she felt. "If we can define our mission, we can keep ourselves focused, no matter the setbacks." Julia nodded enthusiastically, But what truly impacted Mary was the realization that she was beginning to take ownership of this venture. As they drafted a mission statement, a concrete idea around which their efforts could revolve, Mary felt a powerful sense of clarity. But a gnawing fear still lurked, suggesting that her confidence was built on shaky ground. With every word they crafted together, she questioned whether she had the competence to stand behind it when the time came. This new direction felt promising, yet the shadows still loomed large. Then, an unexpected email from Irina landed in her inbox, the subject line stark and bold: "Next Steps Review." Mary's heart sank. The looming skepticism from Irina felt like a storm gathering on the horizon, threatening to cast shadows over her aspirations. The questions tightened around her vocal cords. Would Irina's doubts suffocate their initiative before it had the chance to breathe? Tension escalated as their launch date approached, finalizing their plans while Mary faced internal turmoil over how to address Irina. Mary glanced at Julia, whose face sparkled with excitement and possibility. "We need to present to Irina and get her on board, even if she has her doubts. We can't let her hold us back," Julia urged, almost instinctively reading Mary's hesitation. "That's easier said than done," Mary replied, her voice tempered with anxiety. What if Julia saw through her facade? Could she bear her vulnerabilities to Irina without retreating back into the shadows of doubt? In that charged moment, Mary understood what lay ahead, a battlefield where her courage would clash with her insecurities, possibly leaving her reeling. Armed with the mission statement, they were preparing to answer not only Irina's critiques, but also the questions within her own heart. As they prepared for the imminent confrontation, the air thick with tension, Mary held on to a glimmer of hope, an inkling that standing against the tempest of doubt might reveal not just the strength of their vision, but her own evolution as well. It was time to face Irina, ready or not. Would this encounter serve as a harbinger of doom or a catalyst for transformation? The air in the small conference room felt stifling, charged with an energy that mirrored Mary's anxious heart. The walls closed in around her, glossy whiteboards filled with brainstorming notes and visuals that suddenly felt inadequate. A timer ticking in the corner mocked her growing uncertainty. They were about to present their ideas to Irina, a formidable figure who wielded skepticism like a cloak, and Mary felt as though she were about to step onto a stage without a script. "Remember your passion," Julia whispered, a reassuring smile breaking through Mary's fog. Though Julia's optimism was a buoy in the storm, Mary's inner dialogue was frenetic. Was passion enough? Could their vision withstand scrutiny? What if Irina dissected their ideas, exposing their inadequacies? With each passing moment, she attempted to ground herself, reciting affirmations brewed in the depths of her mind. This was not just a presentation. It was a declaration of perseverance. They had spent countless hours formulating an idea that could mean a fresh start. They had to believe in it as much as they had believed in each other's strengths. As Irina entered the room, her sharp gaze surveyed them like a hawk assessing its next move. "Let us begin," she said, her voice firm. Mary felt her stomach drop, the adrenaline of confrontation creeping up her spine. Julia launched into their mission statement, articulating the vision with poise. Mary marveled at her friend's composure, feeling a blend of admiration and trepidation. When it was Mary's turn to speak, she took a breath, pushing against the tide of doubt surging within her. "This initiative is about reconnecting individuals with their potential," she declared, her voice trembling slightly before gaining strength. "We believe that by providing workshops and resources, we can empower people to thrive in the aftermath of setbacks." Irina narrowed her eyes, dipping into an evaluative silence. "Empowerment. Interesting. But what data do you have to suggest that this will actually succeed? We can't navigate based on good intentions alone." The words struck Mary like a cold wind, echoing her insecurities as each syllable fueled the shadows lurking in her heart. "Building connections is a nuanced process," Mary replied, surprising herself with the steadiness in her voice. "We don't just measure success through numbers, but through transformations in individuals' lives. Sometimes, the impact isn't quantifiable, it's intangible." Irina raised an eyebrow, clearly unimpressed. "Intangible doesn't show results, Mary. If I'm to support this initiative, I need to know it's worth the investment." The implication behind her words felt like an accusation, a challenge that Mary's deepest fears had conjured. Yet, in that moment, she chose not to retreat. Every fiber of her being wanted to shrink back, but she recalled the warm spark of inspiration ignited in their brainstorming sessions. They had something vital to share, something grounded in their combined experiences. Investing in people is something worth pursuing, Mary said with a newfound conviction. We planned outreach, metrics for engagement, and collective impact stories that will showcase growth over time. I can provide evidence through testimonials, tracking progress, the journey of those we hope to help. Mary saw a flicker of something in Irina's gaze, a hint of curiosity perhaps. Was it enough? Was this budding courage capable of persuading Irina to see their vision, rather than just its shortcomings? The stakes felt monumental, yet equally empowering. Here stood Mary, no longer just a cog in someone else's machine, but a co-creator of possibilities. As the meeting progressed, questions sharpened and tighter scrutiny followed, but she felt the weight of her initial fears begin to dissipate, replaced by a sense of agency. With each response, she uncovered layers of her own capabilities, transcending the self-doubt that had haunted her for so long. Finally, as the meeting wrapped up, Irina offered a cryptic nod. I'll need time to consider this. Perhaps a follow-up with more details. So you're intrigued? Mary's heart raced. It was a step into the unknown. Julia caught Mary's eye, an unspoken exchange of triumph and relief coursing between them. Their journey was far from over. This moment felt like a ladder rung, one that not only brought them closer to solidifying their initiative, but also transformed Mary into a more adept version of herself. But what awaited her in the follow-up? Would her perseverance prove worthwhile against Irina's skepticism? Mary felt the haunting specter of her own doubts linger, but the bright embers of newfound strength urged her forward. The very essence of her personal growth trembled on the edge of something profound. She prepared herself, mentally steeling for the next twist in this relentless journey of self-discovery. How would she navigate the duality of excitement and uncertainty that now defined her path? The days that followed were a blur of anticipation and preparation. Mary felt as if she were teetering on the edge of a precipice, confronted by the looming uncertainties of what Irina's response might entail. As she pored over every detail of their proposal, a surge of determination washed over her. This was a decisive moment in her life, one that could either fortify her resolve or lead her back into the safe shadows of doubt. Each afternoon, she and Julia locked themselves in their makeshift war room, a cozy corner of Mary's tiny apartment cluttered with colorful sticky notes, diagrams, and coffee-stained printouts. They crafted every nuance of their follow-up presentation, including targeted metrics and ways to demonstrate the program's potential impact. The walls echoed with fragments of conversations about empowerment, growth, and the stories of individuals they aimed to uplift. Still, as each hour passed, the gnawing anxiety inside her persisted. Mary found herself wrestling with an unsettling thought. Was she truly equipped to spearhead this initiative? Was her intuition enough to navigate the minefield of organizational skepticism? Countless what-ifs plagued her thoughts. She often found her mind racing back to Irina's piercing questions, replaying them like a haunting melody. During one of their late-night sessions, Julia interrupted Mary's spiral of self-doubt. You know, Mary, we wouldn't be doing this if we didn't believe in it. You're stronger than you realize, she said, her tone steady and reassuring. I know, but no buts, Julia interjected firmly. You faced Irina and didn't back down. That's a sign of incredible growth. This is your moment to shine, not just for the project, but for yourself. The intensity of Julia's words began to seep into Mary's core. She felt the spark reigniting, that initial fire which fueled their dreaming sessions. Perhaps she wasn't just a cog. Perhaps she was the creator of something meaningful. As their final meeting with Irina approached, Mary resolved to delve deeper into the essence of their vision. She combed through their plan again, seeking the heart of their initiative, the stories they collected, the testimonials from individuals who been transformed through adversity. It was the narrative thread that connected all the data, turning abstract numbers into palpable experiences. That on the day of the follow-up meeting, Mary dressed with intention. Each piece of clothing chosen was a reminder that she was now a questioner, and an advocate. She represented not only herself, but the voices of those who sought connection and renewal through their program. Walking into the conference room, she felt a strange blend of excitement and trepidation. Irina was already seated, her usual stern demeanor intact, but there was an unmistakable buzz of curiosity in her posture. Mary took a deep breath and launched into the presentation, this time armed with a richer narrative. She spoke passionately, intertwining the data with personal stories of resilience. The room was still. Irina listened intently, absorbing not just the figures but the lives they represented. Ultimately, it's about potential, Mary articulated, her voice steady. It's about igniting a spark within individuals to push through their circumstances, growing from the experiences that may seem insurmountable. As the meeting progressed, Mary watched Irina's expressions shift subtly, from skepticism to contemplation. With every nod and slight movement of interest, a newfound sense of validation crept into Mary's heart. But just as a glimmer of hope began to bloom, Irina interjected with a sharp remark that sliced through the tension. Your emotional appeal is commendable, Mary, but how do you plan to scale this? How will you sustain interest long-term? The question pierced Mary's confidence, momentarily throwing her into a whirlwind of thoughts. Yet, as the flickering doubt threatened to envelop her, she steadied herself, remembering how far she had come. We're not just building workshops, Irina. We're creating a community, Mary responded, tapping into her earlier inspiration. A community that's engaged, invested, and inspired. Our methods will evolve as we gain traction. Flexibility and adaptability will be our guiding principles. There it was the realization that her path was not merely about the presentation, but also about cultivating an ongoing dialogue, an open exchange, where feedback would shape their actions. As the meeting drew to a close, Irina's eyes narrowed slightly, a thoughtful glint dancing in their depths. I will think about this, Mary. You may have real potential here, don't waste it. Heart racing, Mary nodded, caught between exhilaration and uncertainty. Had she left an impression? Or would Irina's meticulous nature lead her to poke more holes in what they'd crafted? Exiting the conference room, Julia beamed with pride, but Mary couldn't shake the weight of Irina's final words. They lingered like an echo of unfinished business, stirring a mixture of hope and anxiety. Who was she becoming in this process? The journey of self-discovery beckoned, ushering in the next layer of her personal transformation. As she walked away, the questions loomed large. Was she ready for what came next? And could she really harness the strength she had uncovered? The answers felt tantalizingly within reach, yet just out of grasp, leaving her poised on the edge of yet another unknown. The days that followed felt like an intense exercise in patience and introspection. Every moment Mary spent waiting for Irina's decision unraveled layers of her own self-perceptions. She filled her time with incessant planning, brainstorming ways to solidify the proposal while grappling with the haunting uncertainty of anticipation. Julia was a steady presence, a lighthouse guiding Mary through the fog of doubt. Let us talk about next steps, she encouraged, pulling Mary back to the present when her thoughts began to spiral. But even as they strategized, Mary's heart was heavy with the weight of potential rejection. She understood that this experience might very well redefine her trajectory, yet the very idea terrified her. Late one evening, perched on her couch surrounded by sketches and printouts, Mary had an epiphany. Instead of focusing on how to convince Irina, she needed to dive deeper into why this mattered to her. What lived behind the data and the metrics was a call to purpose, a driving force that ignited her passion. The initiative held the power to elevate not just individuals, but to create ripples in the larger narrative of her own life. What if we framed this around stories? Mary pondered aloud, not so much seeking Julia's input as articulating a revelation. We're not just responding to a need, we're sharing experiences that resonate. What if we become the voices of those who feel unheard? Julia's eyes sparkled with realization as she sat straighter. Yes, we need to humanize the numbers. Make it visceral. This mutual understanding fueled a collaborative energy, laying the groundwork for an authentic appeal. Mary started crafting a compelling narrative, a tapestry woven from the lives they hoped to touch. As she immersed herself in this newly found purpose, The dread of Irina's decision began to transform into something more profound, a resolve to remain true to herself irrespective of the outcome. However, the relief was fleeting. Days turned into a confusing mix of anxiety tinged with hope, especially as Irina's silence grew louder. Each time her phone chimed, Mary felt a surge of adrenaline followed by a gut-wrenching disappointment upon realizing it was a mundane notification. And then came the moment she'd been dreading. She received a formal email from Irina. The subject line alone sent a tremor through her. The message contained a date for a follow-up meeting. She felt trapped in a whirlwind of emotions. Thrilling anticipation twisted with trepidation, as it had all led to this moment. Planning for the meeting took on a new urgency. Mary began envisioning not just what she would present, but how she would embody her creation. She would advocate from a place of authenticity, revealing her own vulnerabilities. "I'm not just the presenter," she confided to Julia. "I'm the embodiment of all those voices we want to uplift." The night before the meeting, she laid her materials out, her heart pounding against the backdrop of rising adrenaline. It was more than a presentation. It was a testament to resilience, not just hers, but that of countless others whose stories were intertwined with hers. The clock ticked slowly, each moment amplifying her feverish resolve. When she stepped into the conference room again, the stakes felt impossibly high. Irina's expression remained inscrutable, tension radiating through the air. This time, however, Mary held her head higher. "Thank you for seeing me again," Mary began, grounding herself in purpose rather than anxiety. Just as she began to weave her stories into the proposal, Irina interrupted with a question that cut through the air. "How do you plan to manage an emotional investment? Data is one thing, but emotion can often cloud judgment." The question hung there, a provocation that tested Mary's newfound confidence. She took a deep breath, recalling the heart of their initiative, feeling the stories pulse alive within her. "Irina, our goal is to create a shared narrative that informs data with empathy. It's not about evoking emotion for drama's sake. It's about marrying passion with purpose to make informed decisions." With each word, Mary felt herself shifting, growing stronger in her convictions. She was no longer waiting for permission. She was effectively claiming her space as their advocate. As the meeting progressed, Irina's brow furrowed in contemplation, the earlier skepticism morphing slowly into intrigue. And amid the unexpected tension, Mary realized she had crossed into a new realm of self-discovery and professional comprehension. But as she walked out of the conference room, a single thought consumed her. Was this the turning point she had hoped for, or was it merely the foundation for a greater challenge? What steps would she have to take next to ensure her vision was not just an echo but a resounding success? With the next meeting looming ahead, the uncertainty remained, leaving her to ponder the question that would define her path. How far was she willing to push forward, knowing that this journey would demand even more than she had anticipated? As days melted into weeks, Mary's journey had crystallized into a singular focus: to reclaim her identity, grounded in passion, vulnerability, and newfound resilience. She faced the daunting challenge of seeking approval from Irina, not merely as her evaluator, but as the custodian of potential opportunities that could ripple through her community. The last discussion had ignited a fire within her, a determination to meld emotional connectivity with measurable impact. This time, when she approached the clinic for the follow-up meeting, she did so armed with more than just revised proposals. Mary carried tangible stories, testimonials from community members whose lives had been altered through small acts of kindness, through workshops that ignited a flicker of hope in their hearts. Each narrative solidified her assertion that healing transcends medical interventions. It encompasses an orchestration of empathy and understanding. As she entered the conference room, the air thick with anticipation, Irina, seated with her characteristic poise, regarded her steadily. Mary began the discussion by reflecting on how their earlier conversation had honed the vision for their workshops. "Irina, thank you for giving me the opportunity to present once more. I've gathered stories from those who have begun their transformative journeys. Their experiences are what drive our mission," she stated confidently, feeling the energy shift as if charged with purpose. With each testimonial she shared, including those of individuals who had emerged from the shadows of despair, Mary witnessed a softening in Irina's demeanor. The professional banter morphed to an engagement rooted in human connection. These stories are powerful, Mary, but how do they translate into metrics for success? Irina inquired, her tone curious, not confrontational. Mary leaned into the question, reinforcing her clarity. We will employ qualitative methods alongside quantitative feedback. By tracking attendance, engagement levels, and personal progress stories, we can shape the program iteratively, ensuring that it resonates deeply with our participants and fosters a consistent impact. The conversation evolved beyond numbers into a robust dialogue about values, engagement, and the very fabric that could hold their initiative together. A collaborative spirit started to brew in the room, and with it came the realization that Mary had accomplished not only the reclamation of her career, but also a deeper insight into community-centered work. As they delved further into strategic planning, Irina leaned forward, her expression shifting. So, how are you planning to recruit those who need this most? Great question. We aim to cultivate partnerships with local organizations, schools, and businesses, places where people feel comfortable gathering. We'll position our workshops as accessible meeting grounds for mutual aid. The more integrated we are into their worlds, the more we can uplift and engage them, Mary articulated, feeling the weight of doubt dissipate with each word. With a confident cadence, she highlighted examples where grassroots efforts had led to sustainable success in similar initiatives. The synergy blossoming in that room marked a stark contrast to her initial hesitation. Each moment felt as though she were chiseling away at a marble block, revealing a vision that had been deeply embedded within her all along. Irina remarked, "Your initiative could indeed influence more than just those seeking medical care. It could build a foundational movement toward community resilience." As the meeting wrapped up, Irina's final words surged through Mary like an electric jolt of affirmation. "Stay ambitious, Mary. I see potential here. You're using your past as a springboard. Don't shy away from pushing boundaries. Let us give this a chance." Emerging from the building, Mary couldn't contain her exhilaration. Vulnerability had fueled her strength, and her fears transformed into hallmarks of authenticity. She had not only articulated her vision, but also forged a path forward, pivoting from uncertainty to poised confidence. In the weeks that followed, with Irina's support, they launched their initiative, fostering workshops rooted in compassion and knowledge sharing. Attendance surpassed expectations, and individuals began transforming not just their health literacy, but their outlooks on life. Mary found herself amidst a vibrant community, no longer a shadow but a beacon of light. She had not merely reconstructed her career, she had woven her narrative into the fabric of her community. Reflecting on her journey, she recognized that success was not solely defined by her previous role as a nurse or teacher. It transcended titles and accolades. It was the tangible connections fostered, the lives improved, and ultimately, the unshakable belief in her own worth. Mary stood on the threshold of a new dawn, crafting a legacy of empowerment rooted in empathy, redefining what it meant to heal not just bodies, but hearts. Now, as she gazed out upon a room filled with eager participants ready to embrace their personal growth, she knew she had arrived at a destination uniquely her own. So, to you, dear audience, if you've been inspired by Mary's transformative journey, this is the moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to our channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and brighten someone's day. Comment below your reactions and theories about Mary's incredible growth. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this powerful conclusion. You need to subscribe now, and don't wait even one more second to share. Your support matters.